In 1970, an American police interceptor was an apex predator. By 1979, it was a smog-choked monument to the malaise era. The 70s represented a decade of automotive whiplash, beginning with the raw fury of high-compression big blocks and ending with underpowered, rust-prone boats that struggled to outrun a moped. To chart this chaotic evolution, we are diving into the 3 worst and 4 best American cop cars of the 1970s. A definitive look at the legendary machines that held the line and the mechanical tragedies that let the suspects vanish into the horizon. 1. The 1979 Dodge St Regis, the ultimate smog-strangled disappointment. The 1979 Dodge St Regis stands as the definitive cautionary tale of what happens when a legendary performance brand hits the wall of federal regulation at full speed. By the end of the 1970s, Chrysler was in dire financial straits and desperately needed to replace its massive C-body cruisers with something more fuel-efficient. The result was the R-body St Regis. On paper, it looked the part, with its aggressive hidden headlamps and pillared sedan styling. However, the reality was a mechanical tragedy. While some departments opted for the 360 cubic inch V8, many budget-conscious municipalities chose the 318 cubic inch V8 equipped with a 2-barrel carburetor. This Interceptor produced a pathetic 135 to 145 horsepower, numbers that would be laughable in a modern minivan, let alone a 2-ton police cruiser. The performance specifications of the St. Regis were genuinely embarrassing for a vehicle tasked with highway pursuit. In testing by the Michigan State Police, a St. Regis equipped with a 318 engine took nearly 20 seconds to reach 60 miles per hour. To put that in perspective, the 1970 Polar it replaced could do the same sprint in under 7 seconds. The St. Regis was so slow that it allegedly failed several state police pursuit requirements, leading officers to joke that they had to call ahead to the next county just to let them know the suspect was coming, because they certainly weren't going to catch them. Beyond the lack of speed, the R-body platform was plagued by reliability issues, including front-end suspension components that wore out prematurely and an electrical system that seemed to have a mind of its own. It was a car that looked like a predator but moved like a manatee. 2. The 1974 AMC Matador, the Adam 12 icon with a glass jaw. If you grew up watching Adam 12, you probably have a soft spot for the AMC Matador. It was the car that signaled American Motors' aggressive push into the police market, successfully snatching the massive Los Angeles Police Department contract away from the Big Three. The 1972 to 1974 Matador was, for a brief window, the darling of urban police fleets. It was powered by a formidable 401 cubic inch V8 that produced roughly 255 net horsepower in 1974, a respectable figure for the time. It was fast in a straight line, and thanks to its shorter wheelbase compared to the massive Mopar boats, it was relatively nimble in city streets. However, as the 1970s progressed, the Matador's reputation for durability began to crumble like a stale cookie. The primary reason the Matador makes the worst list isn't a lack of power, but a catastrophic lack of build quality. The Los Angeles Police Department and other departments quickly discovered that the AMC's unibody construction wasn't up to the rigors of 24/7 police abuse. Doors would sag and eventually fail to close properly. The cooling systems were notoriously inadequate for idling in high-traffic city heat, leading to constant overheating, and the interior plastics would rattle themselves to pieces within months. Worst of all, the brakes were prone to fading under heavy use, a terrifying trait for a car capable of high speeds. While the Matador was a star on television, in the real world, mechanics spent more time fixing them than officers spent driving them. By 1976, AMC was essentially out of the police business, leaving behind a legacy of what-ifs and a lot of frustrated fleet managers. So just a quick timeout, guys. Just before we move on to the rest of the video, could we ask you for a small favor? If you've enjoyed the content so far, could you take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel? Over 98% of viewers watch our videos without subscribing. It costs you absolutely nothing, but it is a really huge help to us. Thanks. 3. The 1975 Ford Gran Torino, the heavyweight hero that couldn't move. We can largely blame Starsky and Hutch for the undeserved reputation of the Ford Gran Torino. In the show, the striped tomato did amazing stunts and chased down criminals with ease. In the real world of 1975 law enforcement, the Gran Torino was a bloated, over-engineered mess. Following the 1973 oil crisis, Ford struggled to adapt its mid-size platform to the new reality of emissions and fuel economy. The 1975 Gran Torino police package was essentially a heavy-duty frame, wrapped in a massive, heavy body, powered by a 351 cubic-inch Windsor V8 that had been choked by early emissions equipment to a meager 150 horsepower. The Gran Torino was fundamentally too heavy for its own good, with a curb weight approaching 4,400 pounds and an engine that lacked the torque to move it. The 0 to 60 times hovered around the 12-second mark, and its fuel economy was abysmal, often dipping into the single digits during patrol. Furthermore, the Gran Torino suffered from vague, over-assisted power steering that gave the drivers zero road feel, making high-speed cornering a harrowing, guess-and-check experience. While Ford eventually mastered the police market with the Crown Victoria in later decades, their mid-70s offerings were uninspired, inefficient, and largely incapable of performing the interceptor role their nameplate suggested. And now on to the four best, the legends of the 1970s asphalt. 1. The 1970 Dodge Polara, the high-water mark of the American Interceptor. If there is a holy grail of police cruisers, it is the 1970 Dodge Polara, equipped with the 440 cubic-inch Magnum V8. This car was the absolute pinnacle of pre-smog power, a 4,100-pound beast that could outrun almost anything on the road. The 440 engine produced 375 gross horsepower and a mountain of 480 pound-feet of torque, allowing this massive sedan to hit 60 miles per hour in a staggering 6.7 seconds. For decades, it held the record for the fastest top speed ever recorded in Michigan State police testing, topping out at a verified 150 miles per hour. What made the 1970 Polara so special wasn't just the engine, but the entire police apprehension package. It featured heavy-duty torsion bar suspension, massive 11-inch drum brakes, and even optional front discs, and a cooling system designed to withstand hours of high-speed pursuit in the desert sun. The California Highway Patrol famously favored these cars, using their immense power to rule the vast stretches of California interstate. To this day, the 1970 Polara is remembered by retired officers as the last of the real cop cars, a vehicle that felt unbreakable and performed with a level of violence that commanded respect from both the driver and the pursued. 2. The 1974 Dodge Monaco, the blues mobile and the end of an era. While the 1970 Polara was the performance peak, the 1974 Dodge Monaco was the cultural peak. Immortalized as the blues mobile in the 1980 film The Blues Brothers, the 74 Monaco was described as having cop tires, cop suspension, cop shocks, and a 440 cubic-inch plant. A movie dialogue that was a perfect description of one of the finest pursuit vehicles ever made. Even though 1974 was the first year of more stringent emission standards, the Dodge 440 was still a powerhouse, producing roughly 275 net horsepower, enough to push the massive C-body sedan to a top speed of over 130 miles per hour. The 1974 Monaco was beloved for its fuselage styling and its incredible stability at high speeds. Unlike the lighter cars that followed, the Monaco felt planted and secure when the needle crossed the 100-mile-per-hour mark. It was the quintessential American cruiser, big, loud, and surprisingly agile for its size, thanks to Chrysler's superior torsion bar front suspension. It was the car that defined the look of 1970s law enforcement, patrolling the highways with a presence that has never been replicated. When the 440-powered Monaco was phased out in favor of the downsized models of the late 70s, many officers felt that the golden age of the police car had officially come to an end. 3. The 1978 Chevrolet Nova 9 C1, the giant killer from Detroit. In the mid-70s, as the fuel crisis bit hard and big engines became a liability, Chevrolet did something revolutionary. they looked to their compact lineup for a solution. The result was the 1978 Chevrolet Nova 9C1. Instead of a massive lumbering boat, Chevy built a precision instrument. They took the lightweight Nova chassis and stuffed it with the best components from the Corvette and Camaro Z 28 parts bins. The 9C1 package included the legendary 350 cubic inch L M1 V8, heavy-duty F41 suspension, and crucially, the quick ratio steering box from the Z28 Camaro. The Nova 9C1 wasn't the fastest car in a straight line, but it was a revelation in the corners. It could outhandle almost any other police car on the market, making it the perfect vehicle for urban pursuits and winding back roads. With a 0 to 60 time in the 9-second range and a top speed of nearly 120 miles per hour, it was fast enough, but its true advantage was its agility. It was the first time an American police car focused on total performance rather than just raw displacement. The 1978 Nova 9C1 paved the way for the modern era of smaller, high-handling police interceptors and remains a cult favorite among enthusiasts for its sleeper performance. 4. The 1971 Plymouth Fury, the meanest face in the rearview mirror. The 1971 Plymouth Fury was the sister car to the Dodge Polara, but it deserves its own spot on the best list for its sheer, unadulterated aggression. Equipped with the Commando 440 cubic inch V8, the 1971 Fury was a rolling fortress. In 1971, the 440 still boasted high-performance specs before the massive detuning of the mid-70s, producing upwards of 370 gross horsepower. With its massive loop front bumper and intimidating quad headlight setup, a 1971 Fury appearing in your rearview mirror was a signal that the chase was already over. What set the Fury apart was its combination of luxury and power. Many state police agencies, such as the Michigan State Police and New York State Police, ordered these cars with upgraded interiors to keep officers comfortable during long shifts, but they never skimped on the mechanicals. The Fury was famous for its high-speed cooling package and heavy-duty electrical systems that could handle the massive power draw of early electronic sirens and radio equipment. It was a perfectly balanced machine for its era. It had the muscle of a dragster and the durability of a freight train. To many, the 71 Fury represents the final year of the uncompromising American pursuit vehicle before the malaise began to settle in. The 1970s was a decade that taught American law enforcement a difficult lesson about the relationship between technology and performance. We saw the transition from the brute force era of 440 Magnums and Commandos to the efficiency era of the Nova 9C1 and, unfortunately, the embarrassment era of the St Regis. Today, these 1970s cruisers are more than just old cars. They are artifacts of a turbulent time in American history, representing the moment when the automotive world had to reinvent itself from the ground up.